Hello. teleSUR English presents a new episode of China Now, a web media's production that showcases the culture, technology, and politics of the Asian giant. In this first segment, we have the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, making his first trip to China since his inauguration and the first visit by an Australian premier since 2016. Also is Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has Shan Yuxia, the vice chair of the Central Military Commission of China in Moscow, and more. Let's see.
China Current is a weekly news talk show from China to the world. We cover viral news about China every week and also give you the newest updates on China's cutting-edge technologies. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to China Currents. I'm Chris. On November 4th, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese started his 4-day trip to China, seeking dialogue and cooperation. It is Albanese's first visit to China since his inauguration and the first visit by an Australian Prime Minister since 2016. On November 5th, Prime Minister Albanese delivered a speech at the opening ceremony of the 6th China International Import Expo in Shanghai. Constructive economic engagement between countries helps to build relationships. That's why the government that I lead will continue to work constructively with China, Albanese said in his speech. The visit is largely reported positively in both China and Australia, which is seen as China-Australia relations getting back in the right direction. On November 6th, Prime Minister Albanese met with Chinese President Xi Jinping. President Xi told PM Albanese that his visit can be described as carrying on the past and opening up the future, citing the fact that this year marks the 50th anniversary of the trip made by Gough Whitlam, the first Australian leader to visit China. Xi told Albanese that the small yard and high fence mentality, decoupling and de-risking are essentially forms of protectionism, which runs counter to the laws of the market, the laws of science, and the trend of human society. China pursues a win-win strategy of opening up and comprehensively promotes the building of a strong country and national rejuvenation through Chinese-style modernization. This will bring unprecedented opportunities to Australia and other countries around the world. Xi called on China and Australia to enhance mutual understanding and trust through peaceful coexistence and achieve common development through mutually beneficial cooperation. Next up, on November 5th, the 6th China International Import Expo started in East China's Shanghai, with 154 countries, regions, and international organizations, more than 3,400 exhibitors, and more than 390,000 attendees participated. Among these countries, 64 are in the Belt and Road Initiative. And notably, this year marks the first time the United States has set up an official pavilion. A great number of cutting-edge technologies and new products are making their debut at this event. It received acclaim from foreign leaders and officials for its contributions to providing business opportunities to global enterprises, fostering international trade and cooperation, and promoting global economic development. Next up on Chinese national defense. China's National Defense Ministry spokesperson Zhang Xiaogang responded on Saturday to Canada's recent claim of unsafe interception by Chinese military jets, saying that the Canadian helicopters' approaches to Chinese airspace in the South China Sea were malicious and provocative acts with ulterior motives. On November 3rd, Canadian Minister of National Defense Bill Blair accused Chinese fighter jets of circling over the so-called international waters in the South China Sea on October 29th and launching flares over a Canadian helicopter, stating that these incidents put Canadian aircrew at risk. Spokesperson Zhang Xiaogang clarified that 2 unidentified Canadian helicopters from the frigate Ottawa repeatedly approached Chinese airspace over the Shisha Islands. The People's Liberation Army took appropriate measures to identify and warn the aircraft. The Canadian helicopters not only failed to respond, but they also engaged in provocative actions, such as flying at extremely low altitudes. Subsequently, the Canadian side sensationalized and misrepresented the incident through the media, baselessly accusing and tarnishing China. Such actions by Canada violates both Chinese domestic law and relevant international law, endangering China's sovereignty and security, representing a deliberate act of malicious provocation. This is the second time within 2 weeks that Canada has publicly sensationalized what they refer to as dangerous intercepts by Chinese military aircrafts. On October 14th, the CP-140 aircraft from Canada illegally entered Chinese territorial airspace near Diaoyu Islands, seriously infringing upon Chinese sovereignty and posing a threat to China's national security. And next up on technology, the opening ceremony of the 2023 World Internet Conference Wuzhen Summit was held on November 8th. Chinese President Xi Jinping addressed the summit via video. He called for building a more equal and inclusive cyberspace and stressed the need to better promote the shared values of humanity. Hosted by the WIC and the People's Government of Zhejiang Province, the summit aims to celebrate the achievements and advancement in the digital world while fostering global cooperation in cyberspace. The Wuzhen Summit will feature 20 sub-forums covering a wide range of topics, including global development initiatives for digital cooperation, digital transformation for green and sustainable development, data governance, network computing power, artificial intelligence, and the digital future. The summit brings together more than 580 enterprises from over 48 countries, both in person and online. The event will combine exhibitions, product launches, technology demonstrations, and job fairs, covering a multifaceted platform for knowledge exchange and industry engagement. It serves as a platform for participants to explore innovative solutions and seize opportunities in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. On November 8th, the China Internet Development Report and the World Internet Development Report were unveiled during the 2023 World Internet Conference Wuzhen Summit. According to the reports, as of June, an impressive 364 million individuals in China were utilizing internet healthcare services, showcasing the profound integration of digital technology into people's daily lives. Furthermore, an average of 68,000 disabled individuals annually found employment opportunities through the internet in China, underscoring the transformative power of digital platforms. In addition to its domestic advancement, China has demonstrated its commitment to global digital public services enhancement. The country is actively engaged in international collaboration, particularly in the realm of internet-based poverty alleviation. The release of these reports signifies China's dedication to fostering digital innovation, expanding internet access, and utilizing technology for the betterment of society at large. And next up, let's take a look at some extreme weather. Since November 5th, the China Meteorological Administration has issued 3-day warnings for blizzard, cold waves, and strong winds, signaling the first major blizzard of the season in China's northeast region. Local weather stations picked up a record-breaking snowfall on November 6th. In response to the anticipated severe blizzard, multiple cities in the northeast have enforced school closures on November 6th, as one of the region's largest hubs, Harbin Airport, grounded 260 flights on the same day. As one of China's main grain-producing regions, the northeast has millions of acres of corn and rice yet to be harvested as blizzards hit. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has dispatched expert teams to northeast provinces to expedite the final stages of autumn harvest. Additionally, local farmers have been guided to reinforce windproof structures for greenhouses and warehouses to ensure food supply. On November 6th, a stadium collapsed in Jiamusi, a city in China's northeastern province, Heilongjiang. The building, which had a 2-story frame structure covering an area of 2,000 square meters, experienced a collapse in approximately 1/4 of its structure. There were a total of 7 people present. The rescue operation was completed by midnight, resulting in 3 fatalities and 1 injury. Witnesses reported that heavy snow and ice had accumulated on the roof of the stadium prior to the collapse. Next up, on November 8th, Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted Zhang Youxia, the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission of China, in Moscow. Zhang Youxia conveyed President Xi Jinping's warm greetings and best wishes to President Putin. Zhang Youxia stated that China-Russia friendship continues to grow and strengthen over time. In this year, China and Russia have achieved several successful meetings and a series of important consensus. China is willing to work with Russia to jointly safeguard the interests of both countries as well as the world and regional prosperity and stability. And during the meeting, Putin emphasized Russia and China are not seeking to create any military alliances using Cold War-era templates. He points out that although military cooperation is becoming increasingly important, China and Russia are currently paying more attention to the economic front and have been quite effective in these efforts. which is a positive momentum in bilateral trade and economic ties. Last but not least, at the invitation of U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, He Lifeng, member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and Vice Premier of the State Council, departed for San Francisco on November 8th to visit the United States. The trip is to implement the consensus reached at the meeting between the heads of two countries in Bali last year. During the Bali meeting, the two leaders agreed that the financial teams of the two countries would conduct dialogue and coordination on macroeconomic policies as well as economic and trade issues. In September 2023, to implement the important consensus of the meeting in Bali, China and US agreed to establish working groups in the economic field, including an economic working group and a financial working group. He Lifeng's visit to the United States thus aims to strengthen the cooperation between China and US in the economic field. Sino-US relations are a hot topic on the Chinese internet. The general consensus among Chinese netizens is that the possible win-win of Sino-US relations is beneficial for economic development of both countries. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments about our show, please reach us at the email address below. I'm Chris, looking forward to hearing from you, and see you next time.
We will go for a short break now, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to China Now. In this second segment, we have a third haul with some tech innovations and announcement that happened in China last week. Just an Asian alien rock may be buried deep within the Earth since its birth, and satellite images revealing humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, in Thinkers Forum, we have Professor Kishore Mahbubani, a distinguished fellow at the Asian Research Institute of the National University of Singapore, talking in the thematic forum on think tank exchange of the Third Belt and Road Forum for the International Cooperation. Also in Thinkers Forum, in the same thematic forum, in think tank exchange of the Third Belt and Road Forum of International Cooperation, we have Dr. Ismail Sarandegin, former Vice President of the World Bank, talking about how important is the BRI to help us all to achieve broader the international collaboration in everything such as global peace and security through rules of the new mutualism. Let's have a look.
Hi, I'm Lisa and this is Threshold in China. Today we are going to share some exciting tech innovations and announcements that happened in China last week. Traces of an ancient alien protoplanet may have been lurking deep inside Earth for billions of years since the planet's birth. A new study from Caltech in the US and the Shanghai Astronomical Observatory suggests parts of a Mars-sized rock called Theia may still be buried in Earth's lower mantle, around 2,900 kilometers beneath the surface. Theia is the name given to the hypothetical protoplanet believed to have collided with the proto-Earth around 4.5 billion years ago during Earth's formation. And there is a hypothesis that suggests this giant impact threw debris into space, which eventually formed the Moon. Over the centuries, various other moon formation theories have been proposed. The fission hypothesis suggests that part of the early molten Earth was spun off into space due to rapid rotation, later cooling to form the Moon. The capture hypothesis proposed the Moon was captured into Earth's orbit as it flew nearby. However, the different compositions of the Earth and the Moon contradicts these ideas, so the giant impact hypothesis is more plausible. But concrete evidence of Theia's existence has yet to be found. Previous research had shown that seismic waves traveled very slowly through the anomalies, which are the size of two continents in the lower mantle, 2,900 kilometers below the surface. In this study, computer simulations indicate that they were 2 to 3.5% denser than the surrounding mantle. The researchers speculate the high-density material may be the remains of buried Theia mantle material. which was retained deep in the primordial earth as a result of the colossal collision. These high-density sea remnants sank across tens of kilometers to lower regions of the mantle, where they accumulated to form denser clumps above the Earth's core, which remains to this day. According to the research, these formations are expected to have a higher concentration of iron compared to the typical mantle rock found on Earth. Additionally, their chemical compositions may bear resemblance to volcanic rocks found on the Moon. This study backs the lunar impact hypothesis, and it may just tell us how the Earth and the Moon came about. How many of us have indulged in high-calorie foods? Now, scientists have discovered why it is so hard to stop eating them. According to a new study from Zhejiang University School of Medicine, high-fat diets can potentially cause a group of appetite-suppressing brain cells to go on strike, leading to uncontrolled eating. The researchers focused on GABAergic neurons in a brain region called the VOPAG. These VOPAG neurons act to prevent overeating. When the brain senses hunger signals, the VOPAG neurons respond to supervised food intake. Some studies show that even when people lose weight by changing diet and lifestyle, their weight often rebounds within 5 years. So what do high-calorie food do to our brains? To find out, the researchers fed one group of mice a high-fat diet, while a controlled group received a standard food. After 6 to 8 weeks, the mice in the high-fat diet group showed a 25% increase in body weight. What surprised the researchers was that the GABAergic neurons of the mice were strongly inhibited after about a week of feeding the high-calorie food. That means even before we see a change in weight, the brain is already affected, with activities in these regulatory neurons dropping dramatically. Without the self-regulation of the brain cells, the mice became addicted to food and soon became obese. To further understand the molecular changes associated with obesity and potential targets for intervention, the researchers performed single nucleus RNA sequencing. They identified CACNA2D1 as a gene of particular interest, suggesting its potential involvement in obesity-related mechanisms. Through the transgenic adenovirus technology, they increased the expression of the CACNA2D1 gene in the VOPAG GABAergic cells of the obese mice. Their food intake is reduced, and at the same time, its body weight and body fat levels have also declined. This makes CACNA2D1 a potential target for the treatment of recalcitrant obesity as well. The team leader, Professor Wang Hao, also suggested the possibility to screen for potential weight loss drugs. The Washington Post published a group of disturbing satellite images that shows just how immense the people in the Gaza Strip are suffering. Using advanced nightlight remote sensing technology, the image provides a comprehensive analysis of the data-stricken region. It is a collaboration between the UNOSAT and Wuhan University. It highlights a steady decline in the power supply across the Gaza Strip since the outbreak of the conflict. As of 21st of October, an alarming 80% of the buildings in Gaza experienced power outages, with the few remaining structures primarily being vital healthcare institutions. Among Gaza's 5 provinces, Rafah province exhibits relatively lower power losses compared to other areas. The team carried out detailed correlation analysis between geographic and satellite data to assess damage to key infrastructures such as schools, hospitals, and refugee camps. This provided direct and accurate information to support international relief efforts. Remote sensing technology is used to obtain ground images to provide disaster information. Nightlight remote sensing has unique advantages over traditional remote sensing in 2 ways. First, it can provide larger images of disaster distribution under the same condition, allowing macro assessment. Second, traditional remote sensing can only detect damage during the day. Nightlight remote sensing obviously overcomes this limitation. Earlier this year, the Wuhan team and UNOSAT also collaborated to assess the earthquake-stricken areas in Turkey and identify significant reduction in nighttime lights, particularly in these locations. In the aftermath of a disaster, electricity serves as a lifeline for hospitals, sustaining the lives of patients and newborns. Lives could be saved using nightlight remote sensing to understand the power situation and map the nearest power lines. And that is all for today's Threshold. We hope you like this news section on science and technology in China. As usual, we welcome your feedback and thoughts.
Is that to improve the state of our world, we first have to agree on what's the state of our world. And we do know that our world is a very complex place. So much is happening, as has been said. But clearly there are some overriding drivers of change in our world. And one of the most strongest drivers of change is the simple fact that our world is shrinking and becoming, we live in a small, interdependent planet. And to try and explain how small the world is becoming, in my book, The Great Convergence, I use a simple analogy, a boat analogy, where I said that in the past, when 8 billion of us lived in 193 separate countries, it was as though we were living in 193 separate boats, which each boat having a captain and a crew. But now the world has shrunk. 8 billion of us no longer live in 193 separate boats. We literally live in 193 separate cabins on the same boat. And if you had any doubt about this, just ask yourself, what was the big metaphysical message from COVID, right? If we were in separate boats, COVID wouldn't have spread from country to country. How did it go like wildfire around the world within a few days? The whole world got it. What does it say? We are on the same boat. And therefore, we have to try to understand how we manage this one boat of us. And this brings me to the second point. Clearly, if our lives are so deeply integrated, we have to strengthen the positive forces that link us together, that create avenues for cooperation, even across different parts of the world. And trust me, there aren't many initiatives like that, but one of them is the Belt and Road Initiative. And it's actually, looking back now, it's quite remarkable that 10 years ago, China decided that what the world needed was an initiative that would help to bring humanity together. That must have showed great foresight on their part. And after 10 years, we can see the results. The world has become more connected. And the Belt and Road Initiative has made many concrete contributions. You heard many of them already, but sometimes what may be a bilateral relationship, say between China and Laos, they build a fast railway. Guess what? Fruits from Thailand can go to China faster through the Laotian railway, right? Let me give you another example. The former president of Croatia referred to the bridge built by China. I actually traveled on that bridge a few weeks ago, and I discovered that because of that bridge, Croatia could join the Schengen Agreement, and because Croatia could join the Schengen Agreement, it got more tourists, the economy went up. You see, these are all the incredible benefits of the Belt and Road Initiative, and the net result of it is that millions of people are benefiting from it, and what is very important, there are actually millions who are very, very poor, for whom there was no hope, and suddenly a Belt and Road Initiative came, and as you know, the initiative has also lifted millions out of poverty. So after all the good that has been done, and this brings me to my third point, why is there so much negative portrayals of the Belt and Road Initiative? As the former Polish Deputy Prime Minister was saying, if you travel in the West, you mention Belt and Road, they say, oh, that's debt trap diplomacy. You know, that's China trying to trap the rest of the world, suck them into traps, and make them indebted. We know that's rubbish, but that rubbish is believed by the most sophisticated and the most powerful and the most influential journals in the world. And when they pour poison on the Belt and Road Initiative, they are at the same time insulting the intelligence of the billions who have signed up for the Belt and Road Initiative. And they're not even aware when they drop this tsunami of condescension on the third world, they're insulting a massive amount of humanity. But what is even more amazing is that when they pour poison on this initiative, they're actually poisoning their own rice bowls. Because in the long run, and this brings me back to my first point, if we are in one small interdependent world, if something goes wrong with the 88% who live outside the West will be affected too. Again, the former Polish Deputy Prime Minister was dead right. When China invests in Africa, there are less migrants to Europe. Europe should send a thank you note to China. No thank you note from Europe. And that's the tragedy. This is why this meeting is so important. If we can generate a better global understanding of the Belt and Road Initiative, then we are helping to create the better world that we desperately need. Thank you very much.
We all need China to build on the enormous successes of the BRI to help us all achieve a broader international collaboration in everything, from global peace and security to the rules of the new multilateralism, from the global response to climate change to the implementation of the SDGs. Chinese leadership is vital and increasingly recognized by one and all. Indeed, we must all remember that it was China's signal achievements in largely abolishing poverty within its borders during the 2000 to 2015 period that helped the whole world achieve the Millennium Development Goals of halving world poverty. If we look at the BRI, it is now 10 years since President Xi announced the BRI in 2013, a new and visionary reimagining of the old Silk Road of yore into a 21st century global vision of enhanced overland and maritime links to promote trade and collaboration and cultural exchange and people-to-people relationships. The BRI is the largest political, economic, physical project for international collaboration in the world. Already now, no less than 147, maybe 150 countries, accounting for 2/3 of the world's population and 40% of global GDP, have signed on to the BRI in related projects, or at least indicated their interest in doing so. And in addition to physical infrastructure, China has funded hundreds of special economic zones or industrial areas designed to create jobs, and also collaborating with a number of countries to upgrade their technological infrastructure. And to accommodate expanding maritime and trade traffic, China is also investing in port development in many countries. The overall ambitions of the BRI vision are staggering in their scope and their potential benefits. And as we enter the second decade of this ambitious enterprise, we need to think how the key aspects of China's ambitious program can be carried over by China and her partners into other domains. So let me open a window on the existential challenge of our time, climate change. China has been a pioneer of renewable energy, and today is by far the world's largest producer of renewable energy and of electric cars. Indeed, China is the world's leader in electricity production from renewable energy sources, with over 3 times the generation of the second-ranking country, which is the United States. And it is undisputed global leader in renewable energy expansion, adding new projects to the grid almost as fast as the rest of the world combined in last year, with the statistics of last year. China also leads the world in electric vehicles. 2/3 of global total electric vehicles were sold by China. But despite these many achievements, China remains still a major emitter of carbon dioxide and still builds a significant number of coal-fired thermal power plants in China and abroad. We sincerely hope that the same determination that put China so far ahead of all other nations in advancing renewable energy will also be deployed to deal with the needed energy transition across all sectors. We, all of humanity, need China's leadership in action as well as words to curb emissions, to help the poor in the world with adaptation and resilience projects in the face of increasingly negative consequences of climate change. But that is not all, for we look to China even more to help redesign the entire global world order. China has a unique position in the world. It has enormous economic power and an unrivaled position in global trade. But moreover, China's good relations with much of the world gives it enormous capacity to contribute to reshaping the global economic and political order. That order needs restructuring. The main organizations, be it the United Nations or the Bretton Woods system, were designed almost 80 years ago in a very different world than the world of today, much less the world of tomorrow. China's involvement with these issues could take us towards a new world order based on our common humanity, rather than relying on the configurations of exclusionary military or economic alliances. An inclusive new world order based on our common humanity would ensure that the strong protect the weak and the rich help the poor. With BRI, China showed how it could lead with vision and imagination beyond anything that anybody else could dream of. The world needs such Chinese engagement with the redesign of the institutions of the global world order for something fitting to the 21st century and our future. I thank you.
Esteemed friends, India and China should be partners and not rivals in the emerging new world order to make it better and brighter for all. This is the theme of my short speech today. The Belt and Road Initiative is unique in global history. It has the potential to change the destiny of the world and contribute to creating a community of shared future, a future of peace, prosperity, and harmony for all of humanity. A very small part of that potential has been realized in the first 10 years of the BRI. The BRI is a product of the profound wisdom of Chinese civilization. The BRI is also a product of the commitment, firm commitment of China's President Xi Jinping to the essential principles of the Chinese civilization. I am a humble representative of China's sister civilization, India. I have participated in all the 3 Belt and Road forums as a non-official representative from India, because as all of you know, Indian government has stayed away from the Belt and Road Initiative. Mine is a determined voice for India-China-Pakistan cooperation, which I believe is a precondition for the rise of a peaceful and prosperous new South Asia. I have been a consistent champion of India joining the Belt and Road Initiative as an equal partner for two reasons. First, it is not possible for India to have smooth and seamless land connectivity with the vast landmass of Asia, both towards India's west as well as towards India's east, without cooperation with China and other neighbors immediate or extended. Second reason, even China will not be able to realize the full potential of the BRI in South Asia, which is the most populous region in the world with a combined population of over 1.8 billion, without India's cooperation. I must add here that Pakistan too will not benefit fully from the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, a flagship project under the BRI, without India joining it. Therefore, the experience of the past 10 years of the BRI in South Asia clearly shows that India, China, Pakistan, all three of us have lost opportunities for creating a better future for the people of South Asia. The time has therefore come for India, China, and Pakistan to explore bold, new, innovative, and practical ideas that can overcome the hurdles in the path of India joining the Belt and Road Initiative. This will enable India, China, Pakistan, along with Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, to jointly create a new vision of regional cooperation and connectivity in South Asia. The current tense India-China relations are the outcome of futile, sterile, and dangerous geopolitical conduct, which is made worse by an external power, the United States of America, trying to fish in troubled waters. Before the situation gets more dangerous for our two countries, for our neighbors, for all of Asia, India and China should resolve their differences through trust-promoting dialogue and win-win cooperation. And the responsibility for this rests both on India and China. This is only possible if both governments abandon geopolitical one-upmanship and embrace geo-civilizational wisdom. This means India-China relations should be reset on the principles of absolute equality, absolute mutual respect, mutual sensitivity to each other's legitimate concerns and aspirations, mutual cooperation to enhance each other's people-oriented development, mutual commitment to peace in Asia, and last but not the least, firm rejection of malign external interference. Let me be explicit. This means saying no to Asian NATO, saying no to quadrilateral becoming a military alliance, saying no to AUKUS, and saying no to any country becoming a regional or global hegemon. Western powers have sought to discredit the BRI by launching a propaganda that it is China's way of establishing its global hegemony. Friends, to counter this, I would like to refer to a few wise thoughts contained in the white paper titled A Global Community of Shared Future, China's Proposals and Actions, which was released last month. It is one of the most enlightened documents presented by the Chinese government to the international community. It says, I quote, "China has never accepted that once a country becomes strong enough, it will invariably seek hegemony. China understands the lesson of history, that hegemony preludes decline." I repeat this. China understands the lesson of history, that hegemony preludes decline. America has not understood this lesson, which is why it is declining. These are truly reassuring words, friends. The white paper also states, I quote, "No country, however strong it may be, can do everything on its own. We must engage in global cooperation. Only when all countries work together, only when we align individual interests with the interests of all, and only when we truly build a global community of shared future, can humanity tide through the crises confronting us all and sail towards a better future," unquote. Friends, I am absolutely confident that India will someday join the Belt and Road Initiative, just as China too should join India's connectivity, cooperation and development initiatives. It cannot be one-way street. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, India's former Prime Minister, with whom I had the privilege of working closely, had wisely said, I quote, "You can change history, but you cannot change geography. You can change friends, but you cannot change neighbors." Professor Ji Xianlin, the great Chinese scholar of Indology, had famously remarked, I quote, "Sino-Indian neighborliness was created in heaven and constructed on earth." Sino-Indian neighborliness was created in heaven and constructed on earth, unquote. It is a sacred command of the heaven itself that India and China should become good neighbors, living in peace and harmony with one another, and set an inspiring example to the rest of the world, which has become weary of wars, conflicts, and confrontations. Heaven has further commanded that India and China, as two great ancient civilizations and as the only two countries with populations more than 1 billion, must work together to create a new, peaceful, prosperous, and harmonious world, harmonious Asia and a harmonious world. Let us not be deaf to the command of the heaven. Thank you very much. Xie xie.
And this was another episode of China Now, a show that opens a window to the present and the future of the Asian Giant. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.